Hey friends! Welcome to Spirit Club, a podcast and community that is all about doing the inner work to live an aligned and, dare I say, happy life. I'm your host, spiritual guide and intuitive, Angell Kelly, and I'm here to share my teachings along with messages passed on to me from higher consciousness. I've also got incredible guests in store to help you go down all those spiritual rabbit holes. So let's go! Welcome to the club! Hey Spirit Club! Welcome back and welcome to a solo episode. We haven't done one of these in a while because I've had so many fun guests and I just couldn't help myself. But I really love these solo episodes, so it's time to get back into them, and I know that you love them too. So today we're going to talk about what you think you want. So where's that coming from? So the other day, my social media manager, shout out to Mac at Kindred Wolf Socials, she asked me this question. Do you believe that the reason you want something so much is because you already have it in the future? And my answer to that was no, not really, but also sometimes yes. So let's do an episode on what you think you want. And when I really feel into this, it's like the concept of our wants and our desires is all we really care about. It's kind of everything. It's why you probably listen to the Spirit Club podcast. It's why you work on yourself. It's why we really do anything. We do things to achieve what we want, right? It's kind of everything. And so is the ultimate goal to not want anything? No, I don't think so. Like in this society, living as a human in this world, is the ultimate goal to have no desires? No. Maybe like a monk. I don't know. But I think, in my opinion, the ultimate state you want to get to is one in which you know what is a true call of your heart and you are unattached to the outcome. That is peace. That is trust. So I often work with clients to figure out what is a true call of the heart. And since the heart is like the seat of your soul, it is kind of like a true call of the heart is like a clue from your soul about your aligned path, your aligned direction. So therefore, I think we can classify our wants into two categories. We have calls of the heart and ego-driven desires. Okay, so what your heart wants, what your ego wants. Those are kind of the two different wants. So I know your next question. Your next question is, how do I know if what I desire is coming from my ego or from my heart? Let me help you out, okay? So let's start with signs that what you want is coming from the ego. So sign number one, you are very attached to getting the thing. Okay, so if the idea of not getting what you want makes you devastated, miserable, sad, fearful, stressed, this is a sign that it's coming from fear, otherwise known as the ego. I'm sorry, I know you don't really want to hear that. So for example, when I first graduated from university and I desperately wanted to be a geologist, desperately wanted to find a job, and I could not hold a job down. Oil prices were crashing. I talked about this in my first episode, but I woke up every day and applied for jobs every single day. And I went to networking events. I reached out every day to anyone I knew in the industry. I desperately wanted to be a geologist. Okay, and the idea of not being one and like the reality of not being one was making me truly miserable. Like I was crying every day, ask my friends and family. And then I finally landed a contract and I immediately felt happier, which was like a massive red flag to me. I was like, yikes. My happiness is dependent on something outside myself. In other words, is your happiness dependent on you getting what it is that you desire? Is it dependent on something external from you? This is not good. And often I find the universe teaches us lessons here. And you know what? So I did the healing work to clear that desperate ego-driven desire that was like, I must get a job as a geologist. I did the work to clear that, and luck would have it, from that point on, I never ever had a problem getting a job as a geologist. And this is often what you'll see as a pattern. Once you release that life or grip, let me try that again. Once you release the life or death grip you have on that desire, on that outcome, and you do the work around it, it often flows into your life if it's meant for you. Okay, so sign number 1 that what you want is coming from the ego is that you are very attached to getting the thing. Okay. Sign number 2 that what you want is coming from your ego is when you ask yourself, why do I want this thing? The reason is external or like related to what other people think. So this is kind of like the most obvious ego-driven desire. It's like, do you want that house or car because of status, because people will respect you more? Do you want that career path because it's what your parents did or what your parents hope that you'll do? Do you want to have children because everyone around you is doing that? So this one theoretically should be easy to answer. Like, oh, I should be able to answer the question, is what I desire coming from something external to me? However, if you're not ready to be that humble with yourself, your ego's gonna like make up other reasons for why you want it. So, so when you ask yourself and you find yourself almost like justifying or like lying to yourself about why you want that thing, I think we all know when we're lying to ourselves. Okay, so this is another sign that what you think you want is coming from the ego. Okay, sign number 3, that what you want is coming from the ego is asking yourself, will getting this thing give me more worth? So this one ties in pretty nicely to the first one, but it's just another angle to look at this at. So if you imagine yourself achieving or getting the thing that you want, when you get there, what do you really feel like it's giving you? Is it giving you more value? Is it making you feel better about yourself? Is it validating your worth in some way? Does it prove that you're special and good enough? If the answer is yes to any of those, then chances are that part of this desire is ego-driven. Okay, so those are the 3 signs that what you think you want is actually coming from the ego and not truly what your heart desires. And remember, the goal that we have here is getting to the point where we know the difference and we know that what we want is truly what our heart desires. So I've got 7 signs that what you want is coming from the heart. And in other words, coming from your soul, because that's really the seat of the soul. So number 1, you feel really like attracted or magnetized to this desire, this thing that you want, and you don't really know why. You don't know the reason why. So maybe you find yourself like creeping people on Instagram that have what you want, or you like really look up to or hold people on a pedestal that have this thing that you want. And you're taking in a lot of content related to this thing you want. You're like kind of like obsessed with it, and you don't know why. So this is a good sign that it is like a call of the heart. Number 2, when you consider achieving what you want, like when you consider going for it, it feels a little scary and like you're taking a risk to pursue the desire. So true calls of the heart are often going to require courage, because you're going to have to, in some way or another, leave the path that you're on or the path that's been laid out for you by your programming, by your upbringing, by society, by the world we live in. So it requires some courage to leave that path, even just a little bit. So when you think of what you want, if it makes you feel a little scared to pursue it, this is a good sign that it's actually a true call of the heart. And know that the fear is really just the ego trying to keep you safe. That fear is the ego trying to keep you comfortable and safe and on this safe path that you've been walking. Okay, so that's number 2. When you think about this thing that you might want, it makes you feel a little like nervous to pursue it, like you're taking a risk. Okay, number 3. A sign that something is a true call of the heart is that it's more of a feeling that you desire rather than a specific outcome. So you want to feel that joy, that peace, that love, and you might associate it with a certain outcome because that's like when you've experienced that feeling. But truly, what you want is the feeling. And the great part about this, when you're really pursuing a feeling, is that you are less attached to the outcome. You may associate it with an outcome because that's all you know, and that's what we do, right? But ultimately, what's important to you is the feeling. So whatever outcome doesn't really matter. So, for example, when I'm doing this work on this podcast, readings for clients, connecting to God, prayer, all that sort of thing, the feeling that I experience is something that like I can't even explain. It's like, is there a word for that? Connecting to God. It is the utmost high vibration and a feeling of love. And that is what I want in my life. Ultimately, that is what I want for my life. So I don't need a podcast and I don't need to be working with clients to experience that. So whatever path God wants me to take, I know it will lead me to that feeling, and therefore I'm unattached to the outcome. I'm currently tying it to an outcome by pursuing these certain paths, but at any point, if I'm shown that it's time to pivot and move in another direction, that's okay, because I know ultimately I'm achieving what I want, which is the feeling. I hope that makes sense. Okay, number 4 sign that what you want is a call of the heart is that the desire aligns with something that you as a child desired. So this one's really fun to work with. Often when I work with clients who are trying to figure out what they really want, we do a lot of inner child meditations because I find the inner child really shows us the true calls of the heart. Your inner child will show you what their gifts are, what they always loved to do. So when you're considering, is this something that I really want or my ego really wants, think about what you loved as a child, what you loved to do, what your gifts were, and so on. And is there a thread that connects them? Because obviously as a child, maybe you were like, I love to, I don't know, okay, I'll take an example for me. I love to put on performances, dance performances specifically. So that doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, I must pursue life as a dancer. We don't need to be so specific. Instead, we can say, I loved to perform. I loved to showcase. And therefore, this podcast is a really great example of that. Okay, number 5 sign that it may be a true call of your heart is that this desire, this want may be really outside of your current reality. Okay, maybe kind of far out. And the reason is, unfortunately, many of us have been walking a path that it was pre-walked. You know what I mean? It's like if you're walking through the woods, if you're doing a hike in the mountains, and you just naturally end up on the path that people have been walking before you. And so often we do that, we walk a path that our parents walk, we walk a path that our community, our family, the world we live in walks. I see this a lot at my place of work. A lot of folks there have really walked a very exact same path. And there's no coincidence there. So we've been walking this pre-carved path, and the call of our heart, therefore, likely is not something along this path. And therefore, it's going to feel very outside of your current reality, okay? And so this can be, and that's because like to go off that pre-carved path, you would have to have a lot of awareness. You would have to have a lot of courage. You'd have to be really familiar with yourself. And our world really didn't set us up that way. So, like a lot of folks are coming around to getting to know themselves, trusting themselves, building that courage, but we weren't really like taught to do it that way. We were taught to follow the path. So we can't blame ourselves. But yeah, so if what you want feels like quite outside of your current reality, that can be a sign that it is a true call of the heart. Number 6, this one's fun and like a little easier. If your desire aligns with like your astrology, your numerology, your cardology, your soul contract. Okay, so this one's fun. So get to know your birth chart. Get a reading, whatever modality calls to you. I've presented you guys with a few readers, so check them out. Shout out to Gabby, Lambeth, Anna. They all do sort of readings that involves your like true nature and purpose, stuff like that. And as you get to know and see yourself through these modalities, you'll see like, oh, does that call of my heart really align with where my birth chart says I'm headed or what it says about me? Like for me, for example, I've had reading with all those women. I've had my soul contract. I've had my cards read. I've had my astrology, my birth chart done. And when I listen to my path and what I'm meant to do here in this life, I'm like, oh, yep, that's what I'm working on. That is exactly like that feels right and in alignment with what I'm trying to do and what with the calls of my heart. So that's sort of like an easier cheat way. Okay, and number 7, how do you know that what you want is a true call of your heart? You just intuitively know. I left this one for last because there's not a lot I can really say about it, right? If you know, you know. If you know, you know. Currently, there's something I have in the works that is like quite out there, and I hope to share it with you guys soon. But I just know. I know it is the direction for us. And, when I have shared the dream with friends or family, they ask a lot of questions that are like, how do you know? And how are you going to be sure? These types of questions, asking for these types of details. And while I try to give them answers at the same time in my heart, I'm like, I just know. I don't know how else to explain this to you guys. Just wait and see, So this one's kind of like a straight path to, it's a true call of the heart because intuitively you just know and you don't have any questions about it. If this is you, you're not even listening to this podcast because you know. Okay, so I hope that helped you give you some ideas of how to know that something is ego-driven versus heart-driven, something that you want. But I know your next question, and that's going to be, well, can't what I want be both ego-driven and heart-driven? And the answer is yes. I know that's annoying, but I think we all know that life is not so black and white. Life is obviously gray / very colorful. So yeah, a lot of the time it's going to be both. And if you think about it, like, that's okay. It's like, even if a part of what you want, let's say it's mostly a true call of the heart, but a part of it is ego-driven, well, work on and heal the ego-driven part, because I assure you your path towards what you want will be much cleaner and clearer and like flow in easier if you're clearing the ego stuff, the fear stuff. So here at Spirit Club, we like to be practical. So I'm sure you're wondering, how do we work with this information? So I want you all to get out a piece of paper and write down a quick list of what you want, just like what comes to mind. You all know what you want. Or write down the things that you know you want. And if you're driving, just work with the first thing that comes to mind. You can pause here if you like to write those things down. Now, for each thing that you want, ask yourself why. Why do I want this? And do a little journaling on the reasons that you want something. Now, once you've gone through why I want this for each of your desires, it should be clear to you whether it's mostly heart-driven or ego-driven. So you can put a little heart beside the ones that are heart-driven and a little E beside the ones that are ego-driven. So now, for the desires that may be coming from the ego, what do we do with them? You don't necessarily have to just throw them out. Oh, that's an ego-driven desire. I'm going to just drop it. In some cases, that may be the case. Like, let's say you're like, oh, I want to buy this super nice car, but when I really ask myself why I want to buy it, it's totally ego-driven. Yeah, just move on. But know that like the ego-driven desires are a flag. They're like, hi, you have some work to do over here. It's a flag of work that you can focus in on. And that's what we're all about here. And you will always get, there is always a benefit to doing that work and clearing that out. So for example, let's say you go through your list and you deeply desire a life partner and the thought of not having one is so devastating to you. This is a flag. This is a cue of where you need to do some work. It does not mean that you will never have a partner. I want to be clear about that. Let's go back to my geology example. I did the work around like the desperate need I had to have that job. And once I cleared that, I had nonstop jobs as a geologist to the point where like, you know, I've sort of taken it to the end of that journey. So if it's meant for you, it will flow in, but you've got to do the work around it to clear what's really truly blocking what's meant for you to flow in. Okay, so with the desires that you've determined are coming from the ego, this is a cue for you to do some work. Now, for the desires that are coming from your soul, I want you to journal on these 3 questions. Question number 1, am I taking action towards this desire? And if not, what is stopping me? There's so much we can go into on this one, but I'm just going to leave it simple for now. I'll allow you to journal and bring some awareness around. Am I taking action? And if not, why not? Number 2, am I in trust that as I take one step towards this call of my heart, that God or the universe or spirit will reveal to me the next step? Am I in trust that God will reveal to me the next step so long as I take action? Okay, so that's an important one to answer because, you know, a lot of the time, the reason we're not taking that step is because we're not in trust. Okay, so we need to get into that place of trust. And your third question, and this one's really important, and it's probably important to like always periodically sit with this question, and that is, am I at peace with the fact that the outcome or the end game of what I want may look different than what I currently envision? Am I at peace with that? If you're not at peace with that, get at peace with that. Because that is the thing, is that we don't know, like, you know, God has this way higher perspective. And, you know, we have this call of the heart, which is truly just a call of a feeling that we're looking for. And God sees a much more like beautiful, magical outcome. And we might just have our sights set on one specific outcome. And we're doing ourselves a disservice by doing that. I've personally lived that a lot. You know, this path as an intuitive and as a mystic, like I never had my sights set on that path. That never occurred to me at all, 0. And it was by releasing outcome and leaning into surrender and flow and trust that this moved into my life. And I'm so grateful for that. So yes, third question to ask yourself is, am I at peace with the fact that the end game may not look like I currently envision? Okay, so those are some starter questions to get you all taking a step towards a true call of your heart. And I encourage you, friends, as you listen to today's episode, let's commit to taking one little step It's just one little step, okay? And know that just because you're taking one little step doesn't mean that you're going to your outcome or your end game, or that you're committed to that absolute path, okay? Just allow yourself to take one little step, because what it's doing is it's showing your heart that you listen, that you believe, that you trust. And as you show your heart that, you work a muscle and you start to like practice and gain a skill of following calls of your heart rather than a pre-grooved path that's kind of all been laid out before all of us, that we like sort of accidentally end up following. And then trust that the magic will unfold as you take that action. Magic will unfold and God will show you the next stone. God will not show you the end, okay? God will not show you the destination. So you're gonna have to make peace with that, let go of that. And of course, let go of whatever you think that final destination is, because it's way better. So just let it go. Okay, so that's it. And you know, to go back to Mac, my social media manager's original question, do you believe that the reason you want something so much is because you already have it in the future? Well, now you can see that the reason my answer is primarily no is because a lot of the time what we want is ego-driven and or us being attached to like a certain outcome. It might be a call of the heart, but we're like, we've decided it's that particular outcome. And what our true path and our true alignment has in store for us in the future can be much greater and much bigger. So that's it. I hope that helps you to answer the question, what do you think you want? Okay, until next time. Bye.